I know that I'm a little late to the party celebrating the wonderful ending of Amphibia, but I still feel like there's a lot to say about this little frog show and what it managed to do in just its 3-year run. It's great storytelling, wonderful characters, and most importantly, the lessons it managed to teach its audience without being too preachy about them. One of those lessons being how change happens no matter how much we don't want it to sometimes, and the acceptance of it may be hard for some, but it's not impossible. Season 1 does an excellent job in pulling the metaphorical wool over fans' eyes, playing out as if the series would be a typical episodic and zany cartoon that may have something more to it beneath the surface, but at its core, it would be all about the wackiness and fun shenanigans Anne and the Planters managed to get themselves into weekly, but at the same time, not at the expense of whatever character development Anne manages to get out of some of these episodes, learning to not only love herself a little bit more every day, but getting a taste of what healthy friendships look like with other people. And thanks to not only Sprig and the rest of the Planter family, but essentially all of the townspeople of Rookwood, who she spends the entire first season building trust with, and once she does, the more she learns to become the kind of person she's never thought she would be able to be, someone who finally loves herself. A stark comparison to what kind of friendship she was used to before arriving from Earth. Anne had no sense of self or any basic confidence, constantly relying on the approval of others so much she would often get herself into trouble just to receive some kind of validation, not realizing that not only is that not a very good way to feel valued as a person, it's not what real friends would ask you to do. Real friends should love you for who you are and not what you can do for them. In Best Friends, we get to see firsthand the kind of friendship Anne is used to at this point, after convincing Sprig to sneak out of the house after Hot Pot forbids it, and also swim in the lake despite a sign that is meant to be an obvious warning. She defends her actions with the falsehood she has come to accept at this point, that a real friend would help you no matter what, even if it affects that person negatively in the long run. It's only after Sprig chooses to stay by her side, even though he can easily escape the danger they both get into, telling Anne that he's not about to let his first new real friend be alone and that they are in this together. Anne may not have seen it at the time, but Sprig's words were her first step to her development. The more time she spends with the Planters and the more she reveals to others about her current behavior and missteps, the more she learns on her own and from the help of others. By the last few episodes of Season 1, the tables of Anne's revelation of herself and the true meaning of real friendship slightly turn when Sasha enters the picture and shifts the dynamic that Anne has gotten used to at this point. While Anne has changed her perceptions of herself and what it means to be a friend, Sasha has not at all, and instead of just having control over their friend group, she now has power over an entire army, a very dangerous combination that makes her do awful things. And when she realizes that her control over Anne has faded away, she tries her best to get things back to the way they were back home, with Anne falling in line with her control and demands without question. However, Anne shows that this is now impossible because she's changed too much, gaining self-confidence and learning that her friendship with Sasha was not something she wanted to continue, and given herself more power than Sasha has ever had over her, something that Sasha can't accept at this time, and she spends the majority of Season 2 trying to get things back the way they were on Earth, where she had all the power. Unfortunately, no matter what she does, Anne is adamant about not only her new self-worth, but that she doesn't want to be friends with someone who can't accept the person she is now. And also, as a side note, I really think it was a missed opportunity not to explore what her parents' divorce has done to her. Sasha obviously has issues with what her parents have put her through, and those issues have stemmed into some kind of controlling nature, considering that she couldn't control her parents staying together. So to compensate for that, she has to control every aspect around her so that it doesn't affect her negatively. I sympathize with her on this fact because my parents also split up around her age, and I definitely felt out of control of that situation. And while I didn't use that in order to manipulate others, I did do some pretty bad things to myself and the people around me. And also, now that I think about it, Anne literally has the best relationship with her parents because A, Sasha's parents are split up, and obviously she harbors negative feelings toward that. But also, Marcy's parents were, I don't want to say cruel to her, but not at all gentle with the prospect of them moving and her moving away from her only friends. I mean, the scene where she runs out of the house after the news, they don't exactly sound like they're trying to be soft towards their daughter and also tell them that even though this is going to be a big change, it'll be all right, and they'll do everything they can to make sure she can still see her friends. Maybe reading too much into that, but I don't know. It seems like Anne has possibly the best family dynamic, while her friends don't live in the ideal household. Like, I don't think either one of them are being abused, but I also think that they are around some pretty type of volatile emotions that they don't seem to really understand at this point. And they are only 13, and it's very hard to control how you feel at that age. Sasha does manage to see what her controlling nature does to others around her, albeit a little too late, and only after seeing Marcy getting gravely injured, but also watching Anne getting sent back to Earth before they can manage to save Amphibia from Andreas' evil plan. Her and Graham returning to Wortwood alone to face the consequences of their actions puts a lot of things into perspective for her. Her need to be in charge all the time has damaged every meaningful relationship she's ever had, and if she wants to heal and show people that she no longer wants to repeat the same toxic behavior that has done nothing but hurt people around her, she needs to take Anne's words to heart and finally make some kind of change. The next time she and Anne are reunited, Sasha is a completely different person than what she was, no longer using her clever mind to manipulate others, but instead leading a formidable resistance group and even offering Anne the chance to take her place so that the risk of her regressing into the person who ruined everything just for power doesn't have the chance to show up. But Anne has seen the change Sasha works herself through and trusts her enough to share the burden of leadership. Out of all three girls, Marcy has the toughest time accepting the change that is happening in her life. Her parents moving away from the only friends she's ever known is enough of a shock to her that she purposely gets herself and her friends stuck in a different world so that she never has to face the scary reality that change brings, wanting to live in a fantasy world tailored to what she wants as opposed to what she, and by extension, her friends need. True Colors is universally agreed upon by fans as one of the best episodes of Amphibia for a lot of reasons, one of them being the revelation that Marcy is the reason the trio gets trapped in Amphibia in the first place, but not in the way that she had initially hoped for. They get separated, and by the time they reunite, Marcy is the only one who wants to stay and live out the rest of her life living in the fantasy world she's always wanted, convincing herself that because Anne and Sasha have formed relationship with other people from this world, they'll want to stay too, not caring that she is the reason they got stuck in the first place. She is, of course, very wrong about this. Anne and Sasha are absolutely heartbroken by this truth, which ultimately confuses Marcy. To her, she's giving her friends a great gift. She even credits the friendship that Anne and Sprig have, saying that she gave it to Anne herself. In the end, Marcy pays the ultimate price for her fear of change. She not only nearly loses her life, but also becomes a puppet for Andreas to use to achieve his goals of total domination. The kicker being, she doesn't even know she's being used in such a way. The mindscape the core places Marcy in is everything she's ever wanted in life, including her friends becoming versions of themselves that Marcy's always wanted them to be, wanting whatever she wants and never leaving her side. The only thing is, while Marcy enjoys this for a time, she soon sees through the illusion, coming to the conclusion that she has no right to change her friends into what she wants them to be. And while that thought of change may be scary, she knows now she can't escape it forever no matter how hard she tries. And lucky for her, after Anne and Sasha save her, she sees the error of her ways and asks for forgiveness, something that the two of them are more than happy and ready to give. Happy to be at each other's side once more after everything they have been through together. When they get ready to leave Amphibia for good, the heartfelt goodbyes they give to each of their friends almost don't feel real, only because of how much each of the girls' time there has affected all of their friends that they've made during their stay. The raw emotion each of the trio feels towards the thought of never seeing everyone again is hard to watch, even though it shouldn't be. Everyone knew that the girls would be going home one day, but in reality, no one wanted them to go because of how ingrained each of their lives are now, and the thought of that change is incredibly sad, but at the same time, everyone is grateful for the time they all had together, and even though they'll be apart, the trio will always be a part of their lives. That is one thing that should never change. I think the most realistic thing about the final episode is that Marcy still moves away with her parents, and Anne and Sasha drift apart during their time in high school. Yes, it would have been easier to keep the girls together after they got back to Earth, but if they did, the message of change would have lost all of its meaning. Even after everything that's happened to them, even after saving the world, life would have gone on for them, and then eventually their lives would have returned to some sense of normal no matter what. And when life goes on, more often than not, it doesn't always end up going the way you hope it will. Out of the 10-year time skip, the version of the trio that Anne, Sasha, and Marcy have become is because of their time in Amphibia, a place while they entered on an accident and the dangers they faced in the beginning was not only the catalyst to their eventual growth, but also their acceptance of what change is and what they had to let go in order for that change to happen. Yes, it may have been hard for them and often unfair, but the best thing that anyone can do for themselves is try to go with it. Adapt to the change presented to you, no matter how hard or different it may be. Whatever it puts you through, makes you discover, you never know what may be waiting for you. And like Anne's very last lines say, change can be difficult, but it's how we grow. It can be the hardest thing to realize that you can't hold on to something forever, but sometimes you have to let it go. But of the things you let go, you'd be surprised what makes its way back to you. Okay, I know I said I would have this big video for the end of June talking about pride stuff, but honestly, guys, my depression has been beating me over the head with a stick. I have just been going through it, and the motivation to do stuff is not always there. But what I am happy about is how much attention my last few videos have gotten. The Gravity Falls one has over 500 views, and I really didn't think enough people would care about a person who just watched this show that turned 10 this year. So that really got to me, made me feel good, and I got a few more subscribers. So that's always fun too, that people are watching and they actually like it. Although that being said, for the people who come here all the time and are not subscribed but watch this video, please, please feel free to subscribe and ring the notification bell, because I really enjoy that I'm gaining some kind of audience. It gives me more confidence to do more things, and I do have a lot of future plans for this. I am going to, and I think I'll do this when I have at least like 60 subscribers, finally get Patreon set up so I can do more stuff that YouTube probably wouldn't allow me to. Like, for example, I want to do a video complaining about adult animation and how it thinks it has to appeal to the lowest common denominator in order to be good. But at the same time, a show like Arcane can come out and be amazing. And Arcane, I wouldn't make kids watch it just because of like the violence and the swearing and stuff like that, but it's a good example of how to appeal to adults for animation. You don't have to be a Family Guy clone or whatever. But yeah, I'll get into that. I also kind of want to break my own rules and talk about Stranger Things, like season 4, both volumes, because I didn't watch it, but I got spoiled for it, and I have I have some thoughts that probably not a lot of people agree on. Mainly, the people weren't queer baited like they thought they were. They just projected their own queerness onto character and are upset that their headcanons didn't get put in. Like, that's always a crappy thing to do, but like, you can't really get mad because, again, the show is clearly written by no queer people at all. So I don't know, maybe I'm just more guarded and jaded when it comes to that. But whatever, maybe that'll be a special bonus thing, but who knows. But thank you for watching this so much. It means a lot to me that people take the time to listen to this, and I'll see you next time. Bye.